everybody. Jim Raybuck from Ensign is the kind of the way that we present that. But I know today's panel is a good mouthful, but I'll make a brief introduction for really the panel, and we'll kick it off. So today we'll have Jason Rathje. So he's a managing partner at AF Ventures and one of the co-founders at AFWorks. We also have James White, who's the VP of Strategy and Product Development from Innovate.us. And then lastly, we have Jeff Smith, who's a Senior Director of Strategy and Innovation from Aerospace and Defense at 3DS. He's actually going to share a video briefly just talking broadly about what we're doing today. So Jeff, if you would, please go ahead and share.
Okay. I believe that there's someone that's going to share that video for us. So we can go ahead and roll the video.
We developed the 3D Experience Center for various reasons. The sophistication, both in terms of processes, technology, mechanism, system of work is quickly accelerating. And our customers need a place where they can innovate, where they can experiment, where they can develop new ways of working and new ways of interacting with this technology and how that technology would fit into their space and their existing processes. This facility, although it's physical, is connected globally. Our 3D Experience platform is cloud-based. The teams that may be working physically here can be virtually connected with their colleagues around the world and/or other experts or partners that need to be brought in.
We now have the opportunity to drive innovation throughout the world, because our mission and our goal is to be able to create an innovation ecosystem where companies can come and take advantage of this type of capability wherever you are in the world, whether it's in Asia, Europe, whether it's in the United States. And so we have a whole roadmap and strategy to develop this innovation ecosystem. If you're a startup and you come to the 3D Experience Center and leverage all the technologies, all of the processes, the system of work, the methods, rules, templates, and the expertise, and to be able to take a customer out of their comfort zone and bring them into this kind of environment, we can change their mindset to allow them to accomplish their dreams.
The factory of the future will be human-centric. And I believe in the future more and more people in the world will want to have very suitable solutions, experiences. It's not only more of the same object, but differentiation. So human-centric on all aspects. Quality of work, quality of the result, and quality on imagination for people in the way they become true makers of great things for the society.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Jeff, so what we're going to do is we're going to dive right in. This is a big topic. We could talk about it for a long time. Primarily, let's talk about, we're going to start off with big picture. So for the panel, when we're talking, what is as your organizations are facing, how to address the DoD's need to really shift towards building a digital infrastructure that supports kind of innovation. Apologize, I'm getting all sorts of notifications. I'd like for you guys to dive in. Can you share the reason why? Like, why are you here? What is your goal today?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in if you don't mind. Okay. I think looking at it kind of from a transatlantic perspective, because I'm here in the Netherlands actually, it's critical to get acceleration into our defense capability development, not just in the US, but with international partners as well. And digital engineering is a way to accelerate significantly the longer we can stay in the virtual domain before we actually start cutting sheet metal to build things, the better we can design those systems. Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, when I retired from Lockheed Martin, that didn't last very long because there was just so much excitement going on with digital transformation. And that was one of the things that I really dreamed about at Lockheed Martin and was able to implement different activities. And so when I retired, the whole idea is, can I create, with the right ecosystem and the right people and so on, an environment where we could bring startups, where we could bring, large OEMs and so on into an environment and experience what digital transformation could look like, what is digital engineering, what is the digital thread, and then of course, the creation of this digital twin. Yeah. And it's exciting to see the aha experiences occur in people when they experience it, which is what the 3D Experience Company is all about.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask, and specifically for Jason, Jason, you've had an opportunity to really look. I feel like the Air Force is really leading the rest of the military components when it comes down to shaping strategy around this. Can you talk a little bit about how AFWorks and AFVentures have shaped this and around the DoD's need, and how people can participate in that?
Absolutely. It's exciting to be on this panel and discussion today, because at Ventures and at AFWorks, digital transformation means access to rapid capability development and deployment into real mission systems. I mean, we've seen this massive barrier to entry for so long. And I think when you look about, defense procurement or defense acquisitions, we normally talk about, hey, contracting takes so long and acquisition takes so long. And there's so many to work on the requirements aspect of, and all this takes, that's true, but reducing those barriers to entry are the first step. Actually integrating technology into real mission systems and deploying it operationally is really hard too. And so, I think that's what we spent a lot of time focusing on across the AFWorks internal ecosystem and supporting the entire department of the Air Force, which includes the Air and the Space Force. Is at Ventures, we talk about our mission is to go out and leverage the industrial base, not the defense industrial base, the entire industrial base, and bring that capability in. But we know we've got to not only reduce those barriers to entry, have easier pathways in, but we also need to scale and transition. And digital transformation is really important to us, and why we've been leading a lot of the charges in engaging with young companies and startups and small businesses to get them to think about digital acquisition, digital engineering, is to help and assist in transition. And that, for us, is why this is so exciting, because using this framework allows us access to incredibly innovative new capabilities across the entire tech stack. And it's been the enabling function that has allowed us to access, bringing hundreds of new companies into the department.
Yeah, and I feel like probably with a lot of the people that are probably on the call today or listening in or part of Fed Supernova are probably companies that have, one of the things that's most impressive about what AFWorks has done is you've been able to bring in all those companies that participate in Cyber Phase 1s. I remember during, right when COVID kicked off during 20.R, I was sitting down next to Alex Goldberg, and we're sitting down like, how many Cybers were just submitted, and simply to solve problems around how do we respond to this national disaster. And it had AFWorks not stepped up to say, how do we accelerate this and implement change? There are now companies that came through AFWorks that now made a big difference on the way that Texas alone was responding to the virus. So I think when it comes down to what you just said there, and accelerating and broadening what companies have access to is a very important thing. One other thing I want to talk about is let's talk about one of the biggest challenges that the DoD faces is that we've really lost this ability to move quickly. And I want to pose that to the group, and I'd like to talk about what's the importance of that. What's the importance when we're talking near peers? What's the importance when we're talking about our ability to ensure that the U.S. Defense Department maintains dominance?
I'm happy to take that one first, I guess, since
Jason,
actively in the Air Force. But I think that the strategic imperative is critical. Speed decision making, speed in engagement, first advantage. It allows us to stay ahead of any potential adversary, no matter the size or scale of who that adversary might be. It's absolutely critical to national security. It's been that way for centuries. But one of the pushbacks that you'll get inside of the fence line, inside of the Pentagon, is people think speed equates to undisciplined acquisitions or creating systems that aren't well vetted, right? So that by slowing down, you have by correlate, you're going to have an increase in quality or robustness of weapon system. And that's just, frankly, those things may be correlated, but they're not causally related. And I think one of the things that digital transformation allows us to do is to say, look, we can move fast with discipline. We can use, capabilities today to do this work are phenomenal. As a student over a decade ago, as an undergrad in aeronautical engineering, our digital twin was, SolidWorks. The industry has jumped in the last 10 years. Computational capabilities are through the roof, and they're only going to rise. And so you have the ability to move quickly and actually achieve real speed, and throw away that old notion that with speed comes an inability to develop robust, reliable systems, because you can do it now, and you can do it reliably within the trusted environment that is the digital transformation of the DoD.
Yeah, I'd like to make two quick. Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, 2 quick points. If you guys follow the news, recently China just announced, or was announced, that China's Navy is now larger than the U.S. Navy. And also Taiwan has the only company in the world that makes 5-nanometer chips outside of Samsung. So there's some globally strategic geopolitical things at play here, where we need to be able to continue to project power really all over the world to keep supply chains open, et cetera. And I think digital engineering is going to be essential in giving us the acceleration to keep pace with a number of different adversaries. The other thing that's interesting is that if you look at competition the way it's done now on paper, the down select to a final candidate for delivering a complex system happens very early in the life cycle of procurement. With digital engineering techniques, and this is what Dr. Roper talks a lot about with the E-Series procurement of aircraft, you can have, let's say, 5 competitors. Instead of pulling 4 of them out of I got to get the right finger, 4 of them out of the competition early, right? You can leave all 5 of them in there with digital techniques, with their different capabilities, much further into the development of those capabilities, and then down select them over time, and then maybe keeping one at the very end. So the fact that you can keep the competition and the innovation into the procurement process much longer, I think, is going to help us to accelerate.
And to add to Jason and James, I look at, there's an innovation race going on across the world, and who enables those new technologies the quickest is going to win. And when I say new technologies, it's really the synergistic blend between the people, the product, the processes, and the tools. And you can blend that all together, you can do some amazing things. And as you saw from the video, one of our main drivers as we system architected the 3D Experience Center was could you take a 2 to 3 year life cycle, integrating this all together, and do it in 90 days? So that was our mission, to talk about speed that Jason, and then be able to do it with the same degree of quality and execution. And so just as an example, which is public now, Airbus came in with a team of people, 10 people. So it's designed, so 8 to 10 people max. And with these 10 people, and we got them up to speed in the environment and on the platform, they were able to take an idea of a new thrust reverser concept and go from ideation to full scale physics-based physical prototype in 84 days. So it's like, okay, we're on the right track to work the speed, to work the quality, to work the execution, and create that aha experience that you can indeed change how you do system architecture, lifecycle development, and so on.
I want to take this a direction that we didn't discuss pre-panel, and it just kind of came to me. And the military a lot of times spends time thinking about what's the most likely course of action, what's the most dangerous course of action. And I want to pose this to Jason. What happens if we don't do this? What happens if we avoid it, we don't take action, and we kind of just glaze over and continue operating the way that we have?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question and a terrible future. We know the status quo isn't working. It's clear. And I'll say, this is true of any stagnant industry, where, you rely on the business practices of the past to continue to try to generate technologies for the future, and it just doesn't work. We will be disrupted 100%, unless we disrupt ourselves. And so we need to take strategic action immediately. The way, if you look at any case of disruption throughout history, whether that's the steel mill industry or, movie rentals, it doesn't matter. You continue to try to innovate within the bounds of the way you've done it in the past, right? Where you're looking at, maximizing profitability for upmarket systems through this process, then you're going to miss the next great technology, and it's going to usurp entire industries, and unfortunately our entire national security sector, because there are, peer adversaries that are doing this today that are not constrained by our historical acquisition system. And I think the onus, fortunately or unfortunately, is on the government. I mean, we need to be able to take first mover action on this and take the strategic initiative and implement the change that we need to in order to train our workforce to think about this or to acquire systems through this methodology. If not, next time we face an adversary, either directly or indirectly, we're going to be facing capabilities that, even if they exist today inside our national innovation base, we won't be able to deploy them as fast.
Yeah,
we get them to systems as fast. I mean, I guess, you can always go back to the fact that Kodak and Polaroid developed digital photography in the 70s, but missed the mark, right?
Yeah.
There's more money to be made in the film industry. It doesn't, this is human nature. We know these things happen historically, repetitively throughout American business history. So we have to do it to ourselves, or we're going to be faced with the same consequences.
Yeah, there's like a number of stories in the past where I think like people moved too quickly, then maybe they got there too soon and they just didn't, the timing didn't work out for the market. You teed up the next question perfectly. I want to talk about culture, because a lot of how this happens is when we talk culture. And what I want to do is pose the question around how, in order to reach digital transformation, how do we have to transform culture? What are some of those? And James, I'd like to pose the question to you first to talk about what does that look like? How do we shift the culture?
Yeah, one of the challenges the DoD has, and this is kind of a joke that not a joke, but a real life pose to people, is what does it take to become a 3-star general? And people come up with all sorts of things, and the answer is quite simple. Usually it takes becoming a 2-star general. What does it take to become a 2-star general? Okay. And the reason why I say that is that in the DoD culture, you rise through the ranks. Whereas in commercial industry, you can have the CTO, CFO, or even the CEO of a company be in their early to mid 30s, or even their late 20s. So part of the cultural change is that the top management in the DoD, a lot of those people have come up through the ranks, and you get constrained by your own thinking and your own past. In terms of transforming culture, one of the things that we have to do is we have to get those people to change the way they think. When I introduced digital engineering to the Dutch MOD, I did it by basically taking the 3-star admiral who's in charge of all procurement for the Netherlands, and I took him and his team to the European Space Agency and showed them how they're doing it at ESA. We also took them to a luxury yacht manufacturer and showed them how they're using digital engineering there. And by seeing it and seeing it, they didn't actually participate. By seeing it and seeing the successes, that's when the aha moment came, and we were able to change the minds of a lot of senior leaders quickly. So Jeff, you talked about this before the call, is the need to have those success stories and to get those aha moments. I don't know if you want to share some of your experiences there as well.
Yeah. I mean, the one experience that I shared with Airbus, but I would say we opened up the Innovation Campus in April of 2017. And literally, we've had thousands of visits and tours and hundreds of projects. And what we've learned from a culture perspective is you need to invest in the culture as much as you invest in the processes and the tools. And if you don't, most likely the transformation is going to fail. And so from a culture perspective, when you come to Wichita State University, and this is just one example of others, but the whole idea is if I'm a student there, you're going to be put into this environment, what we call learning by experience or applied learning. So you have the typical classroom where you gain the knowledge, but then you go to a lab that reinforces the classroom where you get the know-how. And then you literally walk across the sidewalk, so to speak, and you're working with one of the partners like Spirit Aerosystems on the campus. And so when that student graduates, for example, with an aerospace degree after 4 years, he's had 4 years of getting his degree, 4 years of experience of working in labs, and 4 years of experience for actually working with one of the partners on the campus. And what we've done since then is we've extended it because every university is accredited. So you have to take certain classes to be able to graduate. And what we've noticed is we need to complement that or reinforce it. So we're actually now driving this digital engineering, digital transformation activity to the high schools. So we have 6 high schools now in Wichita that are learning what it means to work in this environment of digital transformation, creating digital engineering, digital twins, and so on. And so the companies and corporations that we work with, whether they're a startup or a big company, they come to us looking for those people that have the kind of mindset that you were talking about, James, to be that next, CEO at the age of 20 or whatever. So that's made a huge difference in setting the stage for this culture change that has to take place.
What I want to do is kind of pose the question maybe slightly different to Jason on side of, so knowing that culture change has to happen within DoD, how can entrepreneurs, how can students, how can people outside of the DoD influence that or partner with the DoD as they go that direction? So can you dive into that for a couple minutes, and then we have to jump to questions, I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with James and Jeff. Culture change has to happen. For us, culture change is like digital transformation, is an enabling function to get capability to the field, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about for us. It's about getting advanced capabilities into the national security apparatus that can be used by the warfighter. And a story, and everything else is a mechanism that we see as a really good bet to help us do that in a fast manner to get our folks the best capabilities, so we're never walking into a fair fight. I mean, that's our job. What I would say that one of the things we've seen though in the course of the last 2 years, we're experimenting with the SBIR program and the STTR program, building out the open topic, is a massive culture change in having companies, having entrepreneurs, having private investors speak directly with requirements owners, with users, in our case, with MAGCOMs in the Air Force side, who are developing the requirements that are going to the president's budget. They're actually becoming programs of record. That famous Henry Ford quote, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse. That's what people knew. That's what people know. It's the same thing inside. I mean, military is no different. The 3-star generals think about the things they think about because that's the technology that they grew up around. That's the requirements that they grew up around. Having companies pitch in to working with us through things like the Ventures open topic or or CSO models for acquisitions. These other kind of really open front door mechanisms allow companies to propose ideas to the department and to the warfighter, and that is game changing. I mean, it allows
that, which is exciting too. You talk like soldier inspired versus that's the beautiful thing that AFWorks is doing.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So allowing companies to come in and to offer ideas and then collaborate inside with the warfighter. Digital transformation is going to enable that even greater than it is today. But I can't speak highly enough for the entrepreneurs who are working with us or trying to work with us or proposing new ideas. Even like you said earlier, Jim, the proposal thing that we released during solicitation released during the pandemic, it's even the ideation flow that came across had people thinking differently. And even if companies weren't selected for an award in that period of time, there's direct interaction that can happen in plenty of other ways that you can work with the DoD outside of just our small program. Because you're changing the way that people are thinking about capability engagement and capability development. And that therefore enables questions or having people ask questions. First of all, I guess the best thing I can say for this is when I have pilots asking me on how requirements work or how the budget works or how acquisitions work, when I started out in the Air Force, nobody cared about that, right? Now I have, airmen coming to me asking me how these things work for training. That is huge. That means that people are folks that are actually out there on the lines doing the day-to-day mission are thinking about how do I participate in capability development. They never were before, because it just was closed off. And it's really the companies and the investors and all of the external parties that are bringing those ideas in. They're taking the time and energy to bring those ideas in. They're changing that paradigm inside the department and allowing us to operate at faster speed to actually give airmen, and guardians and the department what they need and allowing them to be part of that capability development process.
Can I add something? 10 seconds. I know we got to go to questions.
I'll have you wrap up.
So the key here, if you're listening into this and you're trying to figure out how to get into that ecosystem, Google SBIR open topic AFWorks, and you'll probably get to a web page that shows you how to apply. I'm working with a company that has applied for and gotten to phase 1. We've been awarded a phase 3 direct contract with a Global Strike Command, and now we're in a phase 2 competition with AFWorks for the Digital Works facility and Agility Prime. And so we've brought our ideas in. There was no requirement specified by the government. We were able to bring our ideas to them, and they're picking up on them. So Google AFWorks SBIR open topic.
That's great. And Jeff, I was going to say, I'll give you 20 seconds to kind of wrap it up for us, and I'll close this out.
Okay. We had a little a short presentation. It's one chart. I don't know if that's available or not, but for the startups that are out there, we have a startup special offer that is a pretty sweet deal to help you in establishing your business as well as developing your product or system. So reach out to me if you'd like to learn more. I'm at jeff.smith, really hard, at 3ds.com. And I would love to be able to speak with you and show you how we can help you work in this game with your own digital transformation.
Yeah. Well, panel, thanks for jumping in today, talking about the importance of digital transformation. I will hand it back over to the Capital Factory team.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks.